Imagine a life where pain, death, and hardship no longer hold any fear over you. Imagine waking up each day with the strength to face every challenge, the wisdom to navigate life's storms, and the courage to act with integrity, no matter the temptation. Now, picture this life being lived not by a hermit philosopher on a distant mountain, but by one of the most powerful men in human history, a Roman emperor, ruling over a vast empire, faced with limitless temptations and immense responsibility. This was Marcus Aurelius. But who was he really? What allowed him to endure, to rise above the chaos of life, and rule with virtue and wisdom? Marcus Aurelius was not just an emperor, he was a Stoic philosopher, and through his work Meditations, he has provided us with a guide to life that resonates as much today as it did nearly 2 millennia ago. What does it mean to live a life of Stoicism? How can we apply these timeless principles to our own lives, filled with modern distractions, anxieties, and desires? In this video, we'll explore 6 key aspects of Marcus Aurelius's philosophy, lessons that helped him navigate wars, betrayal, and the constant pressure of being emperor. As you watch, ask yourself, how would I have responded if I were in Marcus's place? Could I live with the same integrity and wisdom? Let's dive into the mind of the man who, through Stoicism, solved not just his own universe but provided us with a framework to solve ours. 1. The power of gratitude and daily reflection. When was the last time you woke up and felt gratitude simply for being alive? It's so easy to rush into the day, consumed by tasks, deadlines, and worries, without taking a moment to reflect on the immense gift that each morning brings. Yet Marcus Aurelius, despite the immense pressures of ruling an empire, made this a daily practice. He would begin each morning with a reflection, meditating on the privilege of being alive, able to think, to feel, to breathe. Marcus believed that cultivating this sense of gratitude was not just an exercise in appreciation, but a way to build resilience, to armor the mind against the inevitable challenges of the day. Think about it. How different would your day be if you took just a few moments each morning to reflect on the fact that you are alive, that you have the opportunity to act, to love, to make choices? This practice wasn't just a ritual for Marcus. It was essential to his Stoic philosophy. By starting each day grounded in gratitude, he was able to focus on what mattered most, living virtuously. He didn't wake up thinking about power, wealth, or fame, despite having all those things. Instead, he focused on the present moment, on the opportunity to do good, to act with integrity. This leads to a deeper Stoic question. What if the very things we take for granted each day are the keys to a life well lived? Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and to accept what we cannot. Gratitude, Marcus believed, was a way of taking control of the mind. When you focus on what you have, rather than what you lack, you free yourself from the constant hunger for more. As you reflect on this, think about your own life. What are the small, seemingly insignificant moments that you often overlook? Could it be the quiet peace of a morning coffee, the warmth of the sun, the sound of birds outside your window? These moments are fleeting, and yet they hold the power to transform your mindset. Marcus understood this, and through gratitude, he built an inner fortress of peace and resilience. But there's another side to this practice that goes deeper. By reflecting each day on the gift of life, Marcus also reminded himself of its fragility. Life, he knew, could end at any moment. This was not a cause for despair, but for action. The awareness of death, known as memento mori in Stoicism, was a constant companion to Marcus's gratitude. It wasn't morbid. It was a reminder that each day was an opportunity to live fully, to act with virtue, to make a difference. So ask yourself, how do I want to live today? Will you let the trivial annoyances and distractions of life dictate your mood, or will you choose to focus on what really matters? Marcus's practice of daily gratitude is a tool for us all, a way to center ourselves, to build resilience, and to live with intention. As we move to the next lesson, keep this in mind. Gratitude is not just about feeling good. It's about preparing yourself mentally and emotionally for the day ahead. It's about taking control of your thoughts and aligning your actions with what truly matters. 2. Living in accordance with nature. What does it mean to live in harmony with nature? Is it simply about following the rhythms of the world around us, or is there something deeper? For Marcus Aurelius, living according to nature was the very foundation of a virtuous life. But his understanding of nature was not just about the trees, the rivers, or the animals. It was about the natural order of the universe and our place within it. In Stoicism, living in accordance with nature means recognizing that everything in the world, including ourselves, has a purpose. A tree grows tall and strong, not for praise or recognition, but because it is its nature to do so. A lion hunts, not out of malice or cruelty, but because that is its natural role. In the same way, Marcus believed that humans must fulfill their natural potential, not through wealth, power, or fame, but through virtue. But here's the challenge. Do we, in modern life, live in accordance with our nature? Or have we been distracted by the endless pursuit of material success, validation, and comfort? Marcus reminds us that true fulfillment does not come from external achievements, but from living up to our potential as rational and virtuous beings. What does this look like in practice? It's about making choices that align with our values, regardless of what the world around us demands. This idea might seem abstract, but it's deeply practical. When you face a difficult decision, ask yourself, what is the natural, virtuous thing to do here? Would a tree choose to grow crooked to gain the approval of others, or would it grow straight and true because that is its nature? For Marcus, living in accordance with nature meant always striving to be the best version of himself, even when it was difficult or inconvenient. It's easy to take shortcuts, to act out of fear, greed, or impatience. But Stoicism teaches us to resist these urges and to act in harmony with our higher purpose. Marcus Aurelius's entire life was a testament to this principle. As emperor, he could have indulged in every pleasure, every luxury imaginable. He could have ruled with an iron fist, taken what he wanted, and lived in excess. But he chose not to. Why? Because he understood that such a life would not fulfill his nature as a rational, moral being. Instead, he lived with simplicity, humility, and discipline, always mindful of his duties to others and to the world. As you reflect on this, consider how often we stray from our natural path in the pursuit of short-term gains. How often do we compromise our values for a fleeting reward? Marcus teaches us that the only true failure is not living up to our potential. What could you achieve if you aligned your actions with your highest values? What would change in your life if you lived according to your nature? The Stoics believed that we are all interconnected, that our actions impact not only ourselves, but the world around us. Just as a tree provides shade and fruit, so too must we contribute to the well-being of others. This is our nature as social beings. Marcus often reflected on the idea that we are born for each other, that our purpose is not to dominate or exploit, but to help and support one another. When we live in accordance with this principle, we are truly living in harmony with nature. In a world that constantly pulls us in different directions, that pressures us to be something we're not, Stoicism offers a simple but profound solution. Return to your true self. Strip away the distractions, the desires, and the fears. What remains is your nature, your potential to be kind, wise, and virtuous. This is the path Marcus followed, and it's the path that leads to a fulfilled life. As we transition to the next lesson, ask yourself, what would it look like for me to live in accordance with nature? How can I align my daily actions with my higher purpose? And what distractions can I let go of to live a more authentic, meaningful life? 3. Forgiveness and understanding. How do you react when someone wrongs you? Do you lash out, seek revenge, or hold a grudge? Or do you, like Marcus Aurelius, choose to forgive and understand? In one of his most profound acts of leadership, Marcus faced betrayal from one of his most trusted generals, Avidius Cassius, who declared himself emperor and led a rebellion against him. Such a betrayal could have shattered anyone's trust and driven them to seek vengeance. But Marcus Aurelius responded differently. He forgave. How many of us could respond with such grace? In moments of betrayal or hurt, our instinct is often to strike back, to make the other person feel the pain we have felt. But what if, instead, we paused and asked ourselves, why has this person acted this way? Marcus believed that people do not act out of pure malice, but often out of ignorance. They are misguided, confused, or acting on limited information. This perspective allowed him to see beyond the immediate hurt and to respond with wisdom. Think of the last time someone wronged you. Did you respond with anger or understanding? Did you try to see the situation from their perspective, or did you focus only on your own pain? Marcus reminds us that we too have faults. We have made mistakes, acted out of ignorance, and hurt others, sometimes without realizing it. In Stoicism, this understanding is key to cultivating forgiveness. It's not about excusing bad behavior, but about recognizing the complexity of human nature. Marcus's reaction to Avidius Cassius's betrayal wasn't just a personal triumph. It was a demonstration of Stoic philosophy in action. He could have crushed his former ally, made an example of him, and ruled through fear. But instead, Marcus chose the path of compassion and clemency. He instructed his forces to quell the rebellion without unnecessary cruelty, and when Cassius was eventually assassinated by his own soldiers, Marcus mourned the loss of his former friend. This act of forgiveness is not weakness, it is strength. How often do we equate forgiveness with surrender? In reality, it takes far more courage and wisdom to forgive than to seek revenge. Marcus understood that revenge perpetuates a cycle of harm, whereas forgiveness breaks that cycle. By choosing to be unlike those who wronged him, Marcus demonstrated the true power of Stoicism, the ability to rise above petty emotions and live according to one's highest principles. In modern life, betrayal and conflict are unavoidable. Whether in our personal relationships, our workplaces, or even within ourselves, we will encounter situations that challenge our ability to forgive. Marcus teaches us that forgiveness is not only possible, but necessary for a peaceful life. By letting go of anger and resentment, we free ourselves from the emotional chains that keep us from living virtuously. At this point in the video, I encourage you to reflect on how you handle conflict and betrayal. Could you, like Marcus, respond with understanding and compassion? If this philosophy resonates with you, continue watching as we explore more lessons from the Stoic way of life. Stoicism offers us tools to navigate these difficult moments, reminding us that the best revenge is to be unlike those who cause harm. Stay with us to discover more. 4. The acceptance of death and adversity. Death is the ultimate reality that we all must face. Yet how often do we shy away from thinking about it? For Marcus Aurelius, death was not something to be feared or avoided, but embraced as a natural part of life. He would often remind himself of this in his meditations. Death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back. This wasn't fatalism, it was freedom. Freedom from the fear that paralyzes us and keeps us from living fully. In Stoicism, death is viewed as an inevitable and necessary part of the natural order. Just as the sun rises and sets, life begins and ends. But instead of fearing this truth, Marcus used it as a guide for how to live. He believed that contemplating death was not morbid, but empowering. It allowed him to focus on what truly mattered in the present moment, rather than being consumed by fear of the future. But what about adversity in life? Marcus faced immense hardships during his reign: wars, betrayal, and a devastating plague that swept through the empire. Yet in each of these challenges, he found opportunities for growth. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control the external events of our lives, we can control how we respond to them. For Marcus, adversity was not something to be avoided, but something to be met with courage and resilience. How do you respond to adversity? Do you shrink back, wishing for an easier path, or do you, like Marcus, rise to the challenge? The Stoics believed that hardship was a natural part of life, and that it was through these trials that we developed our character. Marcus often wrote about the importance of meeting adversity head-on, not praying for an easy life, but for the strength to endure a difficult one. In one of his famous reflections, Marcus advises, "Don't pray for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and you will be happy." This is the essence of Stoicism, accepting life as it is, not as we want it to be. By embracing death and adversity, we free ourselves from the constant anxiety that plagues so many of us. Instead of fearing what might happen, we can focus on living fully in the present moment with courage and integrity. As we move into the next section, consider how often you allow fear, whether of death or hardship, to dictate your actions. What would change if you embrace these realities instead of running from them? Marcus Aurelius found peace not in avoiding death, but in accepting it, not in wishing for a life free of adversity, but in developing the strength to face it. Can you do the same? 5. Control over thoughts and actions. What do you control in life? This is a question at the very heart of Stoicism, and Marcus Aurelius pondered it deeply in his meditations. The answer, according to Stoicism, is simple but profound. You control your thoughts and actions, nothing more. Yet, how often do we allow ourselves to be consumed by things outside of our control? Other people's opinions, the unpredictable turns of fate, or even the weather. Marcus Aurelius knew that true freedom came from focusing on what he could control, his own mind. As emperor, he faced overwhelming challenges: wars, betrayal, the plague. Yet he continually reminded himself that while he couldn't control these external events, he could always control how he reacted to them. "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts," he wrote, meaning that our inner world shapes who we are and how we navigate life. Have you ever stopped to consider how much of your mental energy is spent worrying about things you can't change? Maybe it's a difficult colleague at work, a personal relationship that isn't going the way you hoped, or even global events that are far beyond your influence. Marcus would encourage us to ask, why waste time on these things? Instead, focus on what you can change: your thoughts, your actions, and how you respond to the world around you. Think of the last time you felt stressed or anxious. Was it because of something you could control? Or was it because of something you wished you could control? In Stoicism, this distinction is crucial. Marcus wrote extensively about the need to cultivate what he called apatheia, not the absence of emotion, but the absence of being controlled by it. He knew that emotions like anger, fear, and jealousy often arise when we are frustrated by our lack of control. But what if we shifted our focus to what we can control? This is not to say that external events don't matter. Of course, the challenges we face are real, and they impact our lives. But Marcus reminds us that while we can't control what happens, we can always control how we respond. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is perhaps one of the most empowering lessons of Stoicism, the realization that your happiness, your peace of mind, your sense of fulfillment, these things depend not on the world around you, but on your own thoughts and actions. Consider this. How often do you let external events, things beyond your control, dictate your mood or your sense of self-worth? What would change if you could shift that focus inward, taking control of your thoughts and actions and letting go of everything else? Marcus Aurelius did not let the chaos of his reign control him. Instead, he remained steady, always returning to the Stoic principle of focusing on what he could control. This lesson of Stoicism is incredibly relevant in today's world, where distractions and uncontrollable events constantly pull us in different directions. Social media, news, politics, these are all things that can overwhelm us if we let them. But Marcus Aurelius teaches us to take a step back and ask, what can I do? How can I respond with virtue, wisdom, and self-control? In that moment of clarity, you reclaim your power. Before we move on, take a moment to reflect. What are the things in your life right now that you are trying to control but can't? How much of your stress and anxiety comes from things outside of your influence? Can you begin to shift your focus, even a little, toward what you can control? Your thoughts, your actions, and how you choose to respond. And as we continue exploring Marcus's Stoic wisdom, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. What resonates with you most about the idea of controlling your mind rather than external events? Do you find this principle of Stoicism empowering, and how could you begin to apply it in your daily life? 6. Virtue over pleasure and material wealth. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with messages that equate success with wealth, fame, and pleasure. We are told that happiness lies in the accumulation of more money, more possessions, more experiences. But Marcus Aurelius, a man who could have had anything he desired, rejected this notion entirely. He knew that true fulfillment does not come from external pleasures, but from living a life of virtue. Imagine having access to limitless wealth and luxury. As emperor, Marcus could have indulged in every possible excess, lavish banquets, priceless art, grand palaces. Yet instead of pursuing these things, he lived simply. Why? Because he understood that material possessions, while they may bring temporary pleasure, do not lead to lasting happiness. For Marcus, Stoicism was about focusing on what truly matters: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, virtues that transcend the fleeting satisfaction of physical things. Marcus Aurelius's life stands as a powerful counterpoint to the consumerist culture of today. How many of us, when faced with stress or disappointment, turn to shopping, food, or entertainment to fill the void? But do these things ever truly satisfy? Marcus would remind us that while external pleasures can be enjoyed in moderation, they are not the path to lasting happiness. It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live, he wrote, urging us to seek a deeper, more meaningful existence than one defined by material wealth. So, what does it mean to live a life of virtue? For Marcus, it meant making decisions based not on what would bring the most pleasure or comfort, but on what was right. It meant being kind, fair, and courageous, even when it was difficult. Stoicism teaches that virtue is the only true good because it is the only thing that is entirely within our control. Material wealth, physical health, even our reputation, these things are subject to fortune. But our character? That is something we can always cultivate, regardless of our circumstances. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. What do you value most? Is it the pursuit of pleasure, success, and comfort, or is it something deeper? Marcus Aurelius challenges us to examine where we are placing our time and energy. If we are constantly chasing after the next thrill or the next achievement, we will never be satisfied. True contentment comes from living in alignment with our values, from cultivating virtue and integrity in all that we do. In his meditations, Marcus often reminded himself to avoid becoming attached to material things. Receive wealth or prosperity without arrogance and be ready to let it go, he advised. This Stoic detachment from material wealth is not about rejecting the pleasures of life, but about not letting them control you. The more you cling to possessions, the more power they have over you. The Stoics believed that freedom comes from recognizing that none of these things define you. Your worth comes from your character, from the choices you make in the face of temptation, not from the things you own. In our own lives, we are constantly tempted by materialism and consumerism. We are told that we need the latest gadget, the biggest house, the most exotic vacation to be happy. But Marcus Aurelius's example reminds us that these things, while enjoyable, will never lead to true fulfillment. The Stoic path is one of moderation, of enjoying life's pleasures without becoming enslaved by them, and always placing virtue above indulgence. Ask yourself, what would my life look like if I prioritized virtue over pleasure? How would my choices change if I valued wisdom, courage, and kindness above material wealth? Marcus Aurelius lived a life that reflected these principles, and his example continues to inspire us to live with integrity and purpose. Marcus Aurelius, through his Stoic reflections, offers us a timeless guide to navigating the complexities of life. He reminds us to cultivate gratitude, to live in harmony with our nature, to forgive others, to accept death and adversity, to focus on what we can control, and to prioritize virtue over fleeting pleasures. These are not abstract philosophical ideas, but practical tools that we can apply every day. As you reflect on these lessons from Marcus's life, think about how you can bring Stoicism into your own. How can you begin to live more intentionally, focusing on what truly matters? If this video has inspired you, share your thoughts in the comments. Your reflections on Stoicism could help others on their journey toward a more meaningful life. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Marcus Aurelius and Stoic philosophy, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who may find these ideas as valuable as you do. Let's continue the conversation and help each other live with more wisdom, courage, and kindness. Thank you for watching, and may you carry these Stoic lessons with you in the days to come.